Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.
Kathy Hinkfuss of Green Bay is a Democratic candidate in the 4th Assembly District. Kathy, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me.
Well, just a general question first. What do you consider the top issue in your campaign, Kathy?
Well, I think the top issue really is healthcare for all Wisconsinites in the state of Wisconsin. Healthcare or illness is universal. Healthcare is not. And there's a large proportion of our population that do not have access to healthcare. The ACA came in back in 2011 and has some outstanding benefits that I think we need to build on. Currently in the state legislature, we talk about pre-X and, if it goes away, we're going to make sure pre-X is covered. Well, what about all the other benefits? Mental health benefits that are provided under the ACA, wellness checks, all of that is covered, at 100%. So the benefits are designed to give a basic benefit package so people are not underinsured. We need to accept the Medicare or Medicaid funding, and we need to look for ways to make the healthcare affordable and also work with small businesses. I don't think we've done enough education with small businesses. I think small businesses should be able to use the ACA right alongside a group health plan. And, we need to look at ways to reimagine how we do things here in Wisconsin. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic has definitely given us that opportunity to say, hey, stop. We need to relook at this, and we need to put legislators in the state assembly that are going to be willing to have a conversation on this instead of fighting against, rules and mandates that have been put in place.
Well, let's follow up on the pandemic issue with 3 questions, Kathy. Some state Senate Republicans would like to repeal the governor's statewide mask edict. Do you support the mask edict?
We've started to plateau in the state of Wisconsin, and I attribute that to people wearing masks. I worked or was a volunteer for the Wisconsin Face Mask Warriors. I made almost 300 masks when we originally started with the pandemic. And so, yes, I am a supporter of people wearing masks in public places so that we can get this curve under control and we get our kids back to school. It just makes sense logically in my mind. I'm a nurse by trade. So anything that we can do to stop the virus, I think we should try.
We've seen the role that Wisconsin hospitals have played treating COVID patients in hospitals nationally. If you're in the legislature voting on the next state budget, should hospitals get an even greater priority than they may have in the current budget, please?
Yes, I do, especially our rural hospitals. There were a lot of services that were not able to be performed for months and months and months, and hospitals were losing millions of dollars. So any way that we can help make sure that we keep our hospitals in business and making sure that they have access to PPE and everything else, because COVID has added a significant amount of expenses, whether it's in the hospital or in schools. So I definitely take a look at that. Yes.
And then I want to ask you about a bill just introduced by State Senator Chris Kaminga. It says if you're a business or an organization, and if you follow CDC or WEDC protocols to protect your employers and your customers, you could not be sued over COVID. Do you think we need that state law?
Well, let me just say this. We as a state didn't follow the CDC regulations. So I struggle with putting, that on the taxpayers. And I don't think that we should have laws that protect businesses. We have to have laws that protect anybody. And if there are businesses out there that are flagrantly not following the CDC guidelines, I mean, we as a state have not followed the CDC guidelines. So that's where I'll go with that.
Okay, new subject. The governor has introduced a nine bill package on policing reforms. We have a speaker's task force. The co-chairs were just announced. State Senator Weingart is drafting a package on policing reforms. What policing reforms do you think are needed? What, if any?
You know, in looking at the bills that Governor Evers put forward, what I see, and I'm looking at this from a business perspective, I've got, 20 years as an executive. I'm looking at a cultural shift in the way that we do policing. And that cultural shift is, this is the way we've done it for the last 50 years. All processes always need to be improved. And to me, it looks like we should be evaluating what processes should be improved, how we can make policing better, involving the police in that discussion, and then providing the training to absolutely reinforce the work that needs to be done. But that needs to be done with the input of all of our police departments. I'm very proud of the police departments. I do not support rioting. I do not support looting. I mean, those people need to be arrested and held accountable. But our police force, I think we need to take a look at the way that we've traditionally done policing. And the first four things that Tony had on there, to me, look like a business process that needs to be looked at, reevaluated with input, and then continuously reinforced, and especially the training, because you can't have that change without continuously reinforcing the changes that you want to see and getting ideas from people on how you do that.
We just had a report that said that tax collections held up during the year that ended June 30, but there's worries over tax collections because of the pandemic over the current year. So if we didn't collect $1 billion, would you cut spending or would you raise taxes and fees?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want to raise taxes and fees. I think Wisconsin is taxed. The residents here are taxed pretty high. I would look at other options. I mean, through attrition, do we not hire certain jobs over a period of time? Is there a way that the state of Wisconsin from the federal government can receive more money? I think we should go back to the 2/3 funding in a lot of the areas in the state of Wisconsin. So no, I don't want to. I think it's really easy to say, yep, I'm going to go for a tax increase. That is not the answer. It's relooking at dollars that are out there. I mean, just looking at, we missed out on $25 million because we did not meet on the CARES Act on time. So Wisconsin forfeited $25 million. We also have private lawyers that the Republicans are using to the tune of almost $4 million just for gerrymandering. So, if those two things come out at the top, I got to believe that there is a way that we can look at our current budgets and put some things off and make this work. I mean, we're all in the same boat. If we can get rid of the COVID, we can wear our masks, bring it down, get the immunizations out there. It'll end up working itself out.
You mentioned gerrymandering. Do you support the governor's proposal to have a People's Maps Commission draw the lines and then refer it to the lawmakers to enact?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I absolutely. We need our districts to be competitive, and we are one of the most highly gerrymandered states in Wisconsin. When 60 some of the assembly people are Republicans, but yet all Democrats at the top level of the state, there's something the matter with that. And I believe, even though I'm running as a Democrat, there are Democratic principles I believe in, but there's also Republican principles that I believe in. And we need to focus on what the people of the 4th district believe is important.
As the states around Wisconsin legalize marijuana, what's your position on both medical and recreational marijuana, please?
Well, from a medical perspective, our district here, Brown County, it was overwhelming that we should support medical marijuana. And that was done 2 years ago as a non-binding referendum. And a discussion has not even occurred in the Capitol on this. So when we talk about representing our district and representing the people, this is an area where they have said we believe that we should do this. So yeah, we should be looking at it. And as far as recreational, small amounts of it are, we absolutely need to pass that. I mean, it's another a way to increase our taxes, reduce our budget. Canada, Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, all have it. And people are going there to buy it instead of spending their money here in Wisconsin.
2 questions on property taxes. We're a high property tax state, which means schools and local governments for more than 2 decades have lived under caps and limits on property taxes. If you're in the legislature voting on the next state budget, would you vote to continue those caps and limits on property taxes, levies?
When I looked into this, and these limits have been there over 10 years, so they don't take into consideration any type of inflation. So when we look at levy limits, you can't set a hard levy limit. In business, it wouldn't even make any sense. I think you have to index it to inflation, and you need to look at, from a local perspective, local control. So I can't say yes or no, because I want to get down there and I want to look at it and understand how it's affecting the communities, and I want to work with the community leadership on solutions to that.
When you say local control, a follow-up question: should local units of government have more options to raise revenue to lessen their reliance on the property taxes? The county of Milwaukee wants to levy a half-cent sales tax. Is it time to consider giving local governments more revenue options, please?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the city of Brown County, we've had a 0.5% sales tax first for our wonderful Green Bay Packers that rebuilt that stadium. And when that ran out, we passed, the county board passed a 0.5% sales tax to increase funding for our roads and increase funding for buildings that, for years and years have needed to be improved and updated. And, from a business perspective, we have to invest that way. So
last year, Governor Evers recommended raising the gas tax to provide a stable way to pay for our highways and bridges. Could you vote to raise the gas tax?
I will vote to go back to indexing. If we went back to indexing, which was a Democrat and Republican agreed on proposal, we wouldn't have to be voting for gas tax increases because it would be based on inflation. And to date, I think Wisconsin has lost $1.2 billion by removing the indexing on the gas tax. So to me, the indexing makes a lot of sense.
Covering the legislature, I know there's a big debate over whether to replace the Green Bay prison. Your opponent has said, yes, let's build another one in Brown County. What's your position on the Green Bay prison, the current one or a potential new one, please?
Well, first of all, the current prison is over 100 years old. And there are major safety concerns with the people that work there and the inmates that are there. Alloway is also a community that is landlocked, and it is the Green Bay Correctional Center is sitting on some high value land that would, if we could redevelop, have a big tax increase and be able to help the taxpayers within Alloway. So does it make sense to build a new prison? I would look at it from the perspective of, we have a lot of people currently that are in prison. And if we worked with those people to develop skills so that they were able to come out and have, get a decent job instead of warehousing them, we provide another source of workers for the companies that live here. So I support closing it. I support tearing it down, but I support building more of a prison that's going to look at rehabbing those individuals that want to train for a skill. And our workforce development in the state of Wisconsin is very much in support of that. So yes, I think we should remove the prison for safety reasons, and we should look at building one so that those people that are in prison have the opportunity to turn their lives around when they come out.
New subject. When school districts and local governments plan a major public works project, should they have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses There was a study that said in 2015, out-of-state contractors got 72 million in public works contracts, but that more than doubled to 146 million in 2018. Should businesses have to give a preference to Wisconsin? Should local governments have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses?
You know, if the skill set is in Wisconsin, we absolutely, this is the people's tax dollars. So yes, I do believe that we should give preference to the businesses that are in the state of Wisconsin. We're continually investing in workforce development, we're investing in training, and we should be utilizing those workers. Now, if the skill sets are not here, of course, you need to go where the skill sets are. But from a Wisconsin business perspective, I think we should be promoting the businesses in our state.
We only have a couple of minutes left. Any one issue that we haven't mentioned that's important to your campaign?
Well, the one issue that I would say is we need to communicate with our voters. We need to be out there as a legislator. We need to be listening to people. You know, right now, with COVID going on, the legislature not meeting in 4.5 months, missing the deadlines, which cost us $26 million. Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be a change in who we put in Madison, because when we elect somebody, we expect them to go to work for us. We are in the middle of a crisis right now, and our legislature has not met. Think about businesses out there. Businesses are scrambling. People are scrambling to figure out how they're going to get their next paycheck, where they're going to get their next meal. And businesses are trying to figure out how they get through this. And we're all resilient, but our legislature needs to provide leadership. And I believe today we do not have leadership in the 4th district. The district and the people are not being listened to.
Well, my final question was the difference between you and your candidate, but I think you just answered it. So thank you very much. Kathy Hinkfuss is a Democratic candidate in the 4th Assembly District. She lives in Green Bay. The election is November 3rd. Kathy, thank you for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.